All right, welcome back everybody. Today on Mixing 101 Part 2, we're going to be learning about volume and panning. So we already gain staged our project. Everything is looking really nice. And the first thing I want to make sure that you have on your main or your master out, this is where all sound is going to travel out of, is this wonderful U particle, which is just a master chain created by Amy Yu, and it makes everything sound better going right out of the system. Okay, now we can spend a whole lesson going through what all of this stuff does. That's more of an advanced tool. So don't worry about it. Just put it on there and already your mix is going to sound better. Okay, but what we are going to focus on, and if you don't have the U particle on your main, which is right here, please download it from the cloud. You can just type in U and it'll pop up just like that. Now, this is the input, right? So we want to, on the post, that means after all of these effects have been enabled, want to make sure our spectrum meter is here. I'm going to pin that because we are always going to want to have to look at that. And another important tool in the post is called the level meter. So we're going to have that one pinned as well. In mixing, we want to balance our levels so that the sum of all of the sounds is going to equal -6 dB or something around there. Why do we want to do that? Because in the mastering process, the mastering will bring the levels up to 0. And in between -6 and 0, will give what is known as headroom. All right, so the headroom gives the mastering engineer or the software space to bring the levels all the way up for the master. What is a master? A master is so that your song is playable on multiple different sound systems and different DSPs, or which is like Spotify, YouTube, or like if you put it on vinyl, etc. Okay, the master is the final product so that if you play a song next to somebody else's song, the levels are all balanced together. Okay, the 3 parts of making a song: creating it, 2, mixing it, and 3, the master. Okay, we're preparing this for the master, and we're going to get our mix sounding as beautiful as possible before we can even master it. All right. So the very first thing is getting all of your volumes sounding good together. Now that we've gain staged it, our volumes are probably all over the place. This is where we use the faders to balance out the volumes. All right, so very important. The very first step that we're going to do is focus on the kick, the bass, and the snare. We can get those 3 balanced out with a good gain going into our level meter. The rest of the mix is going to be easy. All right, so let's just start with the kick. Okay, this is how you read a level meter. All right, right now, my kick is peaking at -5. And this is how you can read it. Down here is where you can see the levels. Up here is, you can see where it maxes out. Okay, so because when you add a sound and you add a sound and you add a sound, it starts summing together. We want to have our kick balanced out at about -10. Because we're going to start adding things together and it's going to add up. Between -9, -10 is a good volume for a kick. The next thing we're going to do is bring in your snare. See, the snare is already spiking our sum metering. So I'm going to bring this in and use your ears to get the balance. Okay, those 2 sound good. If it's not loud enough, then turn the volume up on your interface. This is getting your balance together. So I like my kick and snare just like that, and I've got some good headroom already. So now the bass. Now when I bring in the bass, you can see that it's peaking in the low end. The purpose of your spectrum analyzer is to get one solid volume level for the whole mix. Okay, if you have all of your parameters looking really clean right here, that's going to be a sign of a really good mix. Now, just to look at the spectrum analyzer and how this works. Right now it's at this 12 octaves, and this is just a way to look at the frequency spectrum, but I really like to use the FFT curve. But it's up to you. You know, if you like to look at it like this is pretty accurate as well. These are just different ways to view your spectrum analyzer. Some are going to be more useful than others. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it on the 12th octave, and you can put it on the curve or the octave or whatever you prefer. My bass is definitely too loud. Now I want to have this balanced out. I'm going to pull my fader down. Don't worry if you think, oh, my bass isn't hitting hard enough. It's not about the volume. It's about the mixing, and we haven't even done that yet, and the mastering. Because if your bass is too loud, it's going to distort in the mastering. Okay? So right now I can see like this is pretty balanced, right? So I've got -8. And now I'm going to add the other sounds. The bass, the snare, and the kick, we do not pan. So this is your foundation that holds the whole thing together, and we're going to build around that. So next I've got another snare. Okay, that sounds too loud already, so I'm going to pull that down to an acceptable level, and I'm going to pan this. Let's pan this one to the left. Okay, that's cool. Maybe not too much. You want to just use your ears at this point. Now my hi-hats. Turn the volume down on that. It's a balanced mix, and I'm not getting above my threshold, which right now is at -7. So the mix is gonna be really good because I balanced the kick, snare, and bass first. Now I've got this other percussion, and I panned the snare 2 to the left, so maybe I'll pan this one to the right. And I'm gonna balance out where I want it to be in the mix. You don't want things to be overpowering. You want it to sit in the mix. You want it to be heard, but you don't want to hear it. If that makes any sense. So let's move now to percussion 2. Get too loud. I'm just gonna pan that one a little bit because it's like a tom fill. And it's good to see where this is happening. Okay, there we go. That was nice. I heard it, but it wasn't overpowering. Now here's my loop. Since the loop has kick and snare in it, and I'm just using it for like an addition to whatever my song is, I'm just gonna pull it down and not pan it because it's a center piece. Now these, when we talk about our chords and our other instances, this is definitely way too loud. Doesn't need to be too loud. I'll probably add some reverb later, which will also fill in some space. Okay. Now these two are competing at the same time, so I'm definitely going to pan one to the left and pan one to the right, and then everything else is going to live in between those. Okay, right here you can see it started to peak a little bit. So that was the second synth. So I'm gonna just adjust the volume of that. Then I'm gonna bring in the next sound, which is you might have to stop and restart your track to get the accurate readout. If it's not loud enough and you're still peaking, don't worry. And when we add compression and EQ, all of those will be more present, but it won't make it louder. And then I'm gonna pan these as well. All right, so let's move these to the other side. I still want to be able to look at these, and let's move on to lead number 2. This is like my main lead, so maybe I'll leave that in the center. And look at this. This is relatively flat. I'm liking this. You're always going to have a little boost in the low frequencies. Okay, as long as this section over here is kind of reaching up, we're doing good. Now between 200 and 500, this is a problematic area in the mix. And this is where it gets muddy. Okay, now it might already be adjusted with our master chain, so just keep an eye on it. Now the last melody. And I'm gonna pan that one. There's also automatic panning plugins that'll make it move from side to side called tremolo that I might use later, but this is a real basic kind of mix. And if I look here, these are all my sounds. Perfect. I'm at -6. And it's sounding really nice already. So that is volume and panning. Watching your meters and getting ready for the next mix part 3. All right, see you then.